All right, welcome in, everybody. It is Tuesday. It's time, or Thursday. Sorry, it's Thursday. Time for Total Bases. I was talking to Bryan, Leonard off air, and it's like, I can't believe we're at the end. There's two more shows for us in the regular season, and we're done with the regular season of Major League Baseball. I kind of can't believe it's coming to an end, but when the regular season ends, the playoffs start, and we're going to continue to do this show during the playoffs. So just me and Bryan today. We got Tokyo Brandon is still on his trek back to Tokyo. He'll be back tomorrow. But Bryan, we both had 5% winners last night, and I'm looking forward to talking some bases with you. So so you got to the window with that Rockies Mariners over yesterday, and it ended up being an easy winner. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't even pay any attention to it. And that's something that I've been working on the last week or so, and it's worked out very well. It's just trying to find the one or two games where it just looks off, and to get such a bad pitcher that Colorado had. And it was basically batting practice if you watch the game at all. Seattle hitting home runs everywhere, and we won that game in 4 innings, 7.5. It ended up scoring 11. It did slow down the second half of the game, but yeah, thanks for pointing that out, and got our clients a nice 5%. Now 20-4 on our Major League Baseball 4% and 5% plays. And as we mentioned yesterday, unless it's a 5% play, our baseball plays are now going to be $9 through the rest of the regular season. I don't know if that continues in the playoffs. We will see. Haven't heard from management on that yet, but yeah, still a great time to bet baseball. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't paying attention to baseball. In fact, I wanted to mention this. I did go to the Aviators game last night. They won the Pacific League title. There was hardly anybody there. There was hundreds of people there. I turn on the Cincinnati Reds game, playoffs right there in the cusp. They're going against Skeens. Nobody's at that Cincinnati Reds game. What the hell's going on with everybody? Even the fans of these teams fighting for the playoffs have decided football is what they're going to pay their attention to. That's good for me, good for my clients, because I can make more money that way. Keep that up. But yeah, I just don't understand it. If it's on the board and you got a better chance of winning, I don't care if it's tiddlywinks. I'll bet it. And if there's a line out there, look when COVID started. Everybody's betting table tennis, Russian table tennis. Who knew? But good profit for us yesterday, and let's continue on today.
It's definitely it definitely is town by town, city by city. I saw Erie, PA had a good crowd for Binghamton, Erie, where our Rumble Ponies won the Eastern League last night. So that was it's just it probably the only show in town out there. I'll tell you where there was also a decent crowd. And where we're going to start today. So I had a 5% winner yesterday on the Diamondbacks, plus 1.5. Was sweating that one out here on the East Coast till well after 1 a.m. So I'm heavily caffeinated now, so I can do this show. But that was that. Going back to what you were saying, that was kind of it for me yesterday. I had one spot that I loved, and I almost just kind of ignored everything else. It, for the most part, worked out in my favor, although the Pirates ended up kind of coming through, but I don't know if I was ever going to actually make that bet. I just thought it was good value. But back to the Diamondbacks game, I took the plus 1.5. I felt like my handicap pretty much played out as I sort of kind of spoke about, and that they would fight right till the end. They end up cashing against the 1.5, but don't win the game. Now, as we look at the NL playoff picture, they got kind of helped out, right? The Mets didn't win, and the Reds lost an extra inning. So this game I want to start with this game for a couple of reasons. One, people have asked about this series this week, and we haven't really talked about it. And two, I find it intriguing what the Diamondbacks are going to do here. So Torey Lovullo, Bryan, not a great in-game manager. Last night, I think he cost him the game. He bunted Perdomo in the bottom of the 10th inning. And essentially what he did, it was a tie game, so they just need to get the runner home from second. So I understand why you want to move him to third, I guess. But basically what he did was take the bat out of Perdomo's hands and Corbin Carroll's hands and give up an out. Didn't agree with that. And I actually find myself disagreeing with some of his managerial moves. But the reason I'm even bringing this up, that dude is a good motivator. I love him for, like, I've listened to a lot of his post-game talks, pre-game talks of late, and where he lacks in the X's and O's department, I think he makes up for in getting this team ready to play, motivating them. And what I think you're going to see here is, I think now he's out in your time, so he's probably just getting his coffee. But in a couple hours, when all those players get in for this day game, I think you're going to see the speech where it's like, where he's like, every inning today is the ninth inning. It's your last home game. So you talked about crowds, the crowd in Cincinnati, not very good. That was a good crowd out in Phoenix last night. Probably a lot of Dodgers fans. I did see a lot of blue, neither here nor there. But like, it's their last home game, so you should get a decent turnout for this game. Obviously, pretty much a playoff game for Arizona, but he's going to move Gallen to the Padres series. So that's why you're looking at bullpen game today for the Diamondbacks. They're going to move Gallen to Friday, and they've already said we're going to go Gallen, Rodriguez, Pfaadt, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in San Diego. So I think that's almost like, I'm looking at the price here. I can get Diamondbacks plus 1.5, minus 110, because it's a bullpen game. I actually kind of like that, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to have Jalen Beeks is likely going to open. He'll probably face Ohtani. He's essentially going out there to get Ohtani and Freeman out in that first inning. And then you're probably going to get, I think you're going to get mixing and matching until he feels comfortable enough. Maybe if he gets a run early or something, he'll put Nabil Crismatt in, right, who's barely pitched in the past 2 weeks. Now, this is a guy that was actually throwing the ball pretty well as a fifth starter. Lovello says, hey, I'm not going 5 starters anymore. We're going to go down to 4. So he's really thrown 1 inning in like the last 9 days. He should be fresh. He's got like a sub-3 ERA. So we'll do the breakdown backwards this time, because I already kind of gave my spiel here, and I'll go to you. I really think that Lovello is going to have his team motivated to be like, hey, every inning today is the 9th inning. Every inning's the 9th inning. This is the playoffs. Every inning's the 9th inning. We're going to manage that right from the jump. And the Dodgers, maybe they exhale. They won yesterday. The Padres lose. If they're not like fully focused, that's going to be tough for them to have to deal with like leverage arm, Crismatt, Arizona playing for their lives, and you're getting the plus 1.5. So I'm actually going to make this my parlay leg. Diamondbacks plus 1.5, but I want to see your rebuttal here.
Okay. Well, Yamamoto has been terrific all season long. He's going to be on the road, as you mentioned, to Biggs, the lefty. The line right now is about a 170, 8.5, slightly to the over. With Yamamoto, you know what you're going to get. The guy's been terrific all year. One of the most consistent pitchers in Major League Baseball. One of the few Dodgers pitchers that has stayed healthy. This will be his 30th start on the season. You can get 30 starts out of anybody in Major League Baseball these days. You're having a really good, healthy season. I can't say anything bad about him, but the Dodgers bullpen continues to struggle. It's amazing with the we saw it with the Mets earlier, saw it with the Dodgers, the Padres, as good as they have been. I believe Cleveland now has the best bullpen in Major League Baseball, and that's without Class A being suspended. So they've just done a tremendous job, and they always seem to do a pretty good job in the bullpen because they just can't afford to get those high-priced starters. But, I am worried about the Dodgers bullpen, and you don't know how long they're going to go with the starter out there today. They're getting ready for the playoffs. They know they're in the playoffs. The very good chance, almost nothing's a lock, but a very good chance that they win the division and they get that bye. So, if LA goes 5 innings, I could see Arizona coming in here and taking advantage of them in the second half of the game. And you mentioned they did push Gallen back, Rodriguez and Pfaadt. So I would expect, you mentioned Crismatt. He pitched 17, threw the ball 17 pitches on Sunday, hasn't pitched since, but he's been terrific all year. And if you take a look at their bullpen, none of them, other than Ryan Thompson, he's been used 2 days in a row, but it's only 14 total pitches. But really Garcia, who took the loss yesterday, threw 39 pitches the last 2 days. He'll be the only one that's not available. I'm not a big fan of this Arizona bullpen. So if I was to play it, I'd either play the Dodgers the first 5, or I would look maybe Arizona if Dodgers take a lead into the 5th or 6th inning and Yamamoto's out of there. Maybe a good time to come in and bet the Arizona live at a pretty good price.
Yamamoto, 1 start at Chase Field earlier this year, gave up 5 runs in 5 innings. I think if I remember correctly, though, he didn't pitch that badly, but he did give up a grand slam in that game. I'm going off memory, but I'm pretty sure he was like cruising along, loaded the bases, and I believe it may have been Gabby Marino or someone like that hit it, took him deep for a grand slam. It still ended up, but it's still notable. Was definitely one of his worst starts of the season. You're doing pretty good when your worst start of the year is like 5 runs over 5 innings. That's pretty good. But yeah, I'm with you, Brian. I can't say anything bad about Yamamoto. What I will say is this ballpark is tough on pitchers. If you poll the league, this is everyone's favorite place to hit. And sometimes I think over the years, you've seen aces go to the desert and throw worse than they maybe, it tends to be one of their bad starts. I'm not saying that there's anything to that per se, but Yamamoto's had some big performances recently. Dodger Stadium's a very friendly pitcher park, not so much Chase Field and big alleys at Chase Field, a lot of triples out there. So again, I think it's a better matchup for the Diamondbacks than what the market is suggesting with where I think people are going to look at this and say, Yamamoto bullpen game, Dodgers, easy win. And that's not the case. And I think it's priced like that. So if you can get a free run to work with here, +1.5, -110, that's a very good bet, especially because the Diamondbacks have now showed you twice. They're not going to quit. They are going to scratch and claw right till the end. And they've gotten to this bullpen twice. So yeah, that'll be my parlay leg. I like that quite a bit. All right, let's go to this day game. Because I actually can't believe this. The Pirates win in extras yesterday. The need to win tax is even bigger today for the Reds. I'm actually surprised at that. We talked about it yesterday. The Reds were favored against Skeens. I did a free play video. I gave the Pirates out. They ended up getting the win. Now you got to play -170 to go against Braxton Ashcraft. Why? Because the Reds need this game? Brian, I mean, do you see some value on the Pirates here?
I do. Ashcraft going for Pittsburgh, Lodolo, the lefty, for Cincinnati. We're looking at about 165 right now, total of 8. And yeah, as much as I like Lodolo, there's nothing wrong with Brandon Ashcraft. We're looking at the bullpens. The problem with Pittsburgh is their top 4 bullpen arms have all pitched back-to-back days. That is the problem. Santana, Matson, Lawrence, and Moreta have all pitched the last 4 days. At least 2 of them probably will not pitch in this game, and that really shortens up this Pittsburgh bullpen. Mudzinski the other day pitched threw 48 pitches on Sunday. He'll probably come in as the first guy out of the bullpen and try to give you some length there, and he's actually been pitching pretty well. Look at the last 2 weeks; he's ranked 15th in baseball. The rankings over there at Roster Resource does a tremendous job. But yeah, if you're looking to play Pittsburgh, I think the first 5 is probably the way to go. Lodolo going for the home team here. Let's take a look at the numbers here on Lodolo. He comes in with a 3.44 ERA, 3.57 expected, 1.08 WHIP. He's been very good in the WHIP department this year, which is one of his weaknesses he's had. His chase rate's in the 90th percentile, walk rate 96th percentile. Terrific. He's always been pretty good with the walk rate. Doesn't allow a lot of base runners, and that's what he's very good at. But if you take a look at his overall numbers, basically slightly better than league average. He only throws the 4 pitches. All of them he uses all the time. The sinker from 20% to his 4-seamer at 29. So he's got 4 pitches he's very comfortable with. But when you take a look at the Cincinnati bullpen, let's see how that goes here. Cincinnati's bullpen is actually in a lot better shape. Pagan pitched threw 26 pitches yesterday, but he had the previous 3 days off. Santillan, 17 after the last 2 days off. So the bullpen fits the Reds better. But let's take a look at that first 5 here with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. We could catch Ashcraft at about a 145. And as opposed to in the full game where it's only a 4 or 5 cents differential. That's where you get your advantage in this one. Ashcraft, first half. I don't want any part of the Pittsburgh bullpen going later on in this game. They just don't have enough arms available. So Ashcraft, the first half, at a nice plus money price is the way I'm looking at this one. It's on my list so far today.
Bryan, I was just kind of trying to confirm this, and I think this is going to be the case. So this makes me like that. Well, I like your Ashcraft bet because I've talked about him a ton on this show. I'm very high on him, and I wouldn't be able to talk you off of Ashcraft at any sort of value ever. But I think you can look at the Pirates full game. I think you could potentially consider Pirates plus 1.5. If that was a little cheaper, I would be considering Pirates plus 1.5 as a play. But I think they did a good job of pricing that. I feel like a little bit out of range. I think if it was minus 125, I'm probably in. Minus 145, I really can't. But I think you're going to see Hunter Barco here after Ashcraft. And if you're unfamiliar with Pirates baseball and the Pirates organization, being bad for a long time does have its perks. It means you get to draft all these absolute studs. The Pirates are so loaded with young arms that, and then of course, Paul Skeens overshadowed all of them. So you have, the list goes on, and the next guy on that list is Hunter Barco, who has been mostly a starter, but they've played around with him at AAA a little bit more recently, bringing him out of the bullpen, having him start games. So he kind of snuck up and quietly made his major league debut 3 days ago, through 1 inning in relief against the Reds. He's more of a starter. He long term, he's probably a starter. So I think you're going to see him. I think they're going to pull the Bubba Chandler move here. And I think you're going to see this game go Ashcraft, Barco, and that's it, unless they really need a 9th inning guy. And that is, he's another one right up there with Bubba Chandler. Nasty stuff. I believe now I'm questioning my, no, he is a lefty. So you're going to get Ashcraft for 4 innings. Really good. 4 or 5 innings, however long he can go. And then they're going to bring in a lefty in with equally good stuff that these guys probably haven't seen much of. And they're probably going to let him go 3-4 innings because he's really a starter. And the Pirates have done this for whatever reason. I don't think they're going to give him a start at this point. They kind of had him working out of the pen at Indianapolis. So my guess here to reset their bullpen, I think you're going to see Ashcraft as long as he can go, Barco as long as he can go. That is very, very appealing. It reminds me of that game maybe 3-4 weeks ago where Ashcraft got the start and then they brought in Bubba Chandler and he finished the game. And I want to say they maybe shut the Rockies out in that game. I know we talked about it on the show, and it was not known that they would do that, but they did. They went Ashcraft, Chandler, and it was lights out. I think that's what they're doing to the Reds here. I think you're going to see Ashcraft followed by Hunter Barco, and it's going to be good. I think it'll be good for the Pirates. So do what you will with that. Pirates first 5 is fine. Take a shot on Pirates plus 140, plus 150, the plus 1.5, maybe the under, maybe Reds. Reds team total 4.5. I'd play under that if it's those two.
Yeah.
Couple of options.
Yesterday. I like that under. Barco, for those that don't know, he's a 2nd-round draft pick out of 22. He's their 4th overall prospect right now. So he's a top prospect for them.
Yeah, and I think the only reason he wasn't sort of up here starting games earlier, he did have an injury back in like May, but that was a long time ago. He came back from it kind of quickly, but I think they were being more cautious with him because of the injury. At this point, he's been back for a while, so I don't think there's any effects of the injury, but I do think that's why he was a little bit slower to come up than, let's say, because he's right in line with like a Chandler, with like he's just, it's like 1A, 1B at this point for the prospects in their organization. So Ashcraft, Chandler, Barco, they're all equally as good. I just think the reason you haven't seen him yet was his injury got kind of derailed the early part of his season. So that'll be one I'm absolutely going to be watching. It's the early game. I know I get yelled at on this show by the chat if I don't get some early action out there. So I would find a way to bet the Pirates. I would find a way to take maybe an under. I think that Reds team total under is a winner. I'm not a big team total guy, but if you're getting a 4.5 there, I'll be surprised if they can go over that. Okay. Let's see. All right. Yeah. I mean, how could we not? How could we not talk Guardians, Tigers right now, Brian? I mean, it is just contagious in Cleveland. You've got who was it, Valera, that had a huge homer? I mean, it's just like, everyone's contributing. It's rubbing off, and it's going the other way for the Tigers, where they can't get out of their own way. It's actually been kind of crazy to watch that it's unfolded like this. Very, very reminiscent of the Red Sox collapse, the year that they had that 10-game lead or whatever and didn't make the playoffs. The Tigers can kind of thank their lucky stars that the A's are smacking the Astros around right now. They're kind of keeping them in the mix. But here we go. Series finale. Guardians, Tigers. Why can't I find a line for this game?
Because
do you have
Detroit hasn't announced a pitcher yet.
I see. So it's the potential AJ Hinch. I'll throw Kiter Montero for 4 innings and then throw a bunch of other random shit, which worked last year phenomenally. Brian, it hasn't worked for them this year, and I think that's part of the reason they're in this situation.
Yeah, I believe Montero came in and had to pitch relief, unless I'm wrong. But yeah, he the last 2 nights he has had to pitch relief. So
yeah, I just threw his name out there kind of randomly. I don't know who the bulk guy is today, but it's probably not him if that's the case.
Well, that was Rafael Montero. My mistake. Rafael Montero came in and pitched. Kiter Montero was the guy who was scheduled originally to pitch today. But it's strange that it hasn't been announced yet. So maybe they're going to do a bullpen game or something today.
Or they'll probably open for him. If Hinch likes a matchup with one of his relievers, they'll just do an opener.
Yep, could be. Yeah, we're looking at these 2 teams right now, and Cleveland, obviously, whatever they're doing is working for them. Messick's going. He's a 170, about a 170 favorite right now. Catchback is 140, 145. Take back, excuse me. Total of 8, but a lot of places, especially here in Vegas, there's nothing up right now because they won't go unless they know who's going to start for Detroit. And I just visited all the Detroit websites, and as far as I could tell, nobody's mentioned anything. So it's a surprise at this point who's going to start. So I'm not going to get too involved in it. I will say, regardless of who Detroit throws out there right now, there's no way I'm laying 170. I do like Messick. He's a lefty, and he's a guy I want to back. But if you look at the Cleveland bullpen, their best guys in the bullpen have pitched the last 2 days. They didn't throw a lot of pitches, which is good. So they may be able to come back out and pitch the third. And the way Cleveland's been winning all these games, they've gotten a lot of usage. Now, the good thing is when your best pitchers get a lot of usage, that means you're winning. The bad part is if they have too many games in which they go now, are they going to be rested enough if and when they do make the playoffs? So I like Cleveland, but I can't lay that number. Got to find a different way to play it. The Detroit Tigers just are not hitting. Let me take a look at team totals here. Obviously, without knowing who's going for them, it's not much out there, but we're looking at 3.5 under 130. I don't know if I'll get there because of the Cleveland bullpen, but it's something right now that I'm going to keep an eye on, see how this works out. I don't want to play Detroit because of the way they're playing, because they're just putting themselves in such a hole. You could just watch them, and I talked about this, and I said 2 days ago that they struck out 20. Cleveland struck out 19 batters for Detroit. I made a mistake. There was 2 strikes on the last guy, and they hit a little grounder, I believe. But still, when you're striking out and looking as bad at the plate as they are right now, I don't want any part of the Tigers. So we'll see what they do. But at this point, I can't lay the 170 with Cleveland. That's just too much. There's plenty of value in this series on Cleveland. We've used them in one way or another the other 2 games. this one I'll probably be setting out.
Yeah, I said yesterday, and I will continue. I've said this the whole series so far, and I'll say it again right now in relative to the side. I mean, that's an insane price to lay with the Guardians at this point, but there is absolutely no way that I will put $1 on the Detroit Tigers until they win a game. Just can't do it. It's you just can't do it. I said it yesterday, and you could have got -125 on the Guardians. Now they're asking you to lay -175 with a rookie pitcher on the mound. I mean, listen, if you could find a good reason to take the Tigers here, more power to you, because that is incredible line value for this Tigers team. I just can't do it. What I could potentially do, Bryan, is take the over. And I'm going to explain why I think that this number is a little bit low. So the Tigers, for all of the sort of bad that's gone on the past couple weeks, they have collectively hit lefties well this season, which is actually very interesting because their lineup is not optimal, in my opinion, against the left-handed pitcher, but they actually have had full season. They've done well against left-handed pitching. So do what you will with that. I don't really know what to make of that, because you don't get what you and I would probably construct as like the optimal Tigers lineup. You don't get that against a lefty. However, they've done okay against left-handed pitching. So do what you will with that. Where I think they might have a little bit of an edge here is against Messick. Why? Columbus and Toledo play constantly. They play all the time. They've probably seen him quite a bit at the AAA level because, of course, part of the Tigers' problem is a lot of their lineup was at AAA either last year, earlier this year. They finally got exposed for the 4A lineup, right? Like these guys, like, I pretty much anyone other than Carey and, a couple guys, like they're all guys that arguably could still be down in AAA. So that being said, they've seen a lot of Messick the last 2 years. I feel like Messick's gotten away with it a little bit. You look at his first month in the, the month of September. So after he obviously had that great start against the Diamondbacks to start his career. And I think the next one was against the Rays, 2 tremendous starts. This month, his whip is 1.57. Now, the ERA is okay. He's got a 3. So he has a 3 ERA in 4 September starts. His ERA is 3. Batting average against 330. That's not great. Whip 1.57. That's not great either. That's 4 starts in September for Messick. I do feel like if the Tigers were going to break out a little bit, it might be against him. I feel like this is a reasonable spot for them to get a couple runs. But right now, Bryan, the Guardians are just feeding off of each other. It's timely hit after timely hit. And they're still playing this game in Cleveland. So I actually think that total's a little bit low. This is probably one of my stronger totals leans on the board today. I think, is it over 8? Is that what you're seeing there?
7.5, a couple 7.5s, but mostly 8.
Yeah, I have a feeling that that's going to be all 8 at some point, like probably as we get closer to first pitch. If you can still get a 7.5 in this game, I think that's a solid look at a total.
I will say regarding Messick, I believe in the last month, his BABIP is like 371. So he's had a lot of bad luck in that regard. I believe he's second in baseball in highest BABIP, and he's still getting out of jams even with the bad luck. That is a concern. Also, normally I would say Detroit without facing a lefty means Kerry Carpenter's out of the lineup, but he has done nothing as of late. I believe he did hit a homer the other day, but other than that, the last 7 days, his hitting rank is ranked 342nd. Parker Meadows 345, Wencel Perez 352, and Baez, who was hurt yesterday, was at 304. So they have one guy who's hitting in the top 100 in baseball, and that's Gleyber Torres at 86. And he's not a guy who's going to get you a ton of home runs. He's just more of a singles guy. So that's my concern about Detroit. But Carpenter's not hitting well right now. He'll probably be replaced by Ibanez and Jones. They came in. They played last time he faced a lefty. They did give McKinstry off that day, but McKinstry is one of their guys that's actually hitting pretty well right now. So, normally I don't like to play Detroit against a lefty, but maybe Carpenter being out of the lineup won't hurt them at all because he's just not playing well. So I'm going to sit back and relax. But I think a lot of that Messick thing was just just bad luck. So he's still. I've watched the games. He still looks like he's pitching the same as he was before. So maybe that's the case.
Yeah, and again, for me, it would be more just like they've had. So I went back and looked. He's made 3 starts against Toledo this year, most of them earlier in the year. And so guys like Jahmai Jones. So I pulled the Tigers lineup the last time they faced a lefty, which was against Wentz, and they had Jones leading off, Wenzel Perez, Ibanez, Parker Meadows, Jace Jung. All of those guys have been at AAA the most of the year. So I wonder if Hinch is smarter than most. I wonder if he's going to look at those minor league splits and try to put the lineup out there that's seen him the most. Because again, they've had a ton. If you were down at Toledo this year, you've seen him for. I think he's accumulated something like 21 or 2 innings against the Mudhens, and so Hinch has got to be grasping at straws at this point anyway. Maybe he's like, hey, let's just see, you guys, Jace Jung, can't get any worse right now. Let's get some of these guys in that at least had a big sample against him. It'll be interesting, but I do think it finds its way over at some point. And some of that, credit to the Guardians. Timely hits. What was it? Jose Ramirez last night gets the big hit to sort of put that game out of reach. I don't think that changes. Team's just been getting big hit after big hit. So doesn't take much to get over 7.5. And I think this one does. Okay. Let's move on. Let me go back to my list here. I do want to get, let's talk Mets Cubs. I feel like we've kind of, talked about this series. I haven't, oddly enough, I feel like I have been wrong about this series, and it's like I've had a little bit of bad luck. Now, I haven't bet any of these, but on Monday, I had the Cubs in a free pick video. Cade Horton gets hurt. The Cubs blow a big lead. Last night, it looked like everything was great until it wasn't. The Cubs just unloaded on Jonah Tong. First time through, he looked pretty good. Mets had a big play to get out of a jam, threw a runner out at home. And but then suddenly they just got bombed. So looks like it's going to be Imanaga, McLean. Obviously a huge game for the Mets. That goes without saying. Are you getting involved, Mets Cubbies, tonight?
At this point, it's up in the air. We got McLean against the lefty Imanaga. Basically a pick 'em right now, with a total of 7.5. When I'm looking at the weather, the Wrigley Field is blowing slightly in. It's minus 8% of what it normally would be, so it's slight differential. Seattle's where it's blowing in at about 14% run differential than it would normally be. They had a little bit of that yesterday. I mean, it didn't matter because the pitching for Colorado. So keep that in mind. But most of the games today, the wind is blowing out, and I think out of the 8 out of the 12, the wind is either blowing out or neutral, and so there could be some runs in these games today. When we take a look at the starting pitchers, McLean's been terrific, but 1.27 ERA, but 3.28 expected, 1.01 WHIP. Excuse me. It's still only thrown less than 43 innings, so not everything has come out with enough sample size here for a baseball savant. But even though he's done great, he does show some things. There is some things that he's a little weak in. The chase rate, walk rate is less than normal, and the hard hit rate. So he's pitching a little bit above his head right now, but it sure has worked so far for him. Imanaga, 3.37 ERA, 4.05 expected, 0.96 WHIP. This is also a mixed bag. His walk rate, 96th percentile, chase rate, 85th, but everything else basically is league average and below. He is basically a ground, doesn't throw many ground balls. He's on the 4th percentile, barrel rate 10th, fastball velocity 8th. So 2 guys that can be hit here, even though their numbers show they've got some good numbers on the season, which would point me a little bit to the over in this one, since it is sitting here at 7.5, but the wind is blowing slightly in, and because it is going to be treated like a playoff game, you have to always take a look at who the Mets bullpen have available. Now, they did have Diaz and Rogers go on Tuesday, and they threw 27 to 31 pitches. Last night they had the day off. Helsley, excuse me, through 24, but he hadn't pitched the previous time. So they should be in decent shape for the bullpen. Probably not going to get there in this game. I had the Mets 2 days ago, lucked out. That was a game they fell behind early and got that big inning. I'll take that win and get out of this series with that victory probably, because I'm seeing better games on the board today.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it would be Mets or pass for me here. I'm very high on McLean. I think, I was going back and forth with someone on Twitter that was like, oh, see, like, I told you the Mets young guys it wasn't going to last. We're going to struggle. And I was like, no, what I said was they need to call these guys up because they need to see if they're sitting on an ace. It's not they didn't want to have Sproat, McLean, and Tong up this year. But guys like Sean Manaea sucking, Senga, Frankie Montas getting hurt, that is the reason that they're up. Not because they just were like dying to take dudes from Double-A and have them starting playoff games. So let's get that straight. The Mets they're doing this for two reasons. One, necessity. Two, they've got to see if they're sitting on a guy that could be like the guy that ends up being the ace in the playoffs. So like, forget like Jonah Tong struggling. The dude had 2 starts at AAA. Okay. Forget that. He's going to be fine. He's awesome. But like, he's up here just trying to help out right now. He shouldn't even be up in the big leagues. But again, they needed to see if he was going to just be like so good that they had to put him on the playoff roster. McLean has actually been that guy. Like that's kind of what I was looking at when I said, okay, they've got Sproat, they've got McLean, they've got Tong down at AAA. If one of these dudes can pan out to be really good, I think the Mets are going to be in okay shape. Now, the Mets have not played good baseball. That's, aside the point, and they've played their way into now sort of needing to have a good weekend to get to the playoffs. But it doesn't mean Nolan McLean still hasn't been that guy. He's been awesome. And, as far from the way I grade out pitchers at the AAA level, he was one almost this entire season. Go watch Pitching Ninja. Rob Friedman posts every time he's got to start. Rob Friedman posts the splits of his sweeper and slot. The 2 pitches that go in the opposite directions. I think one's a sweeper, one is a sinker. I mean, arm tunnel is exactly the same. Ball comes out. One takes a hard right. The other takes a hard left. I don't think the league. I think it's going to be a little while before the league figures out how to handle that. So I'm sort of. I feel like if you like the Mets at all, you this is the spot. Like you have to win with McLean on the mound here. If you don't, I know they got the Marlins this weekend, but if the Mets lose this game, they're really asking to miss the playoffs, in my opinion. So again, not one that's going to make my card, but I do give the slightest of edges to the Mets. And personally, I like McLean, so it would have to be Mets or pass. All right, let's move along. Do you let me go to the chat. I want to see if there's one that people are really asking about that I'm ignoring here. Let's see. Someone says Seahawks money line. I will. I guess I'll take this time to promote myself for a second. I have a 5% play in the Thursday night football game tonight, which is very rare for me. I typically don't play the midweek games, but I like an angle here, and so I do have a 5% football play that goes tonight. Seahawks, Cardinals. Having it from 6-2. I made 8 NFL bets this year, Brian, and I'm 6-2, so I'm pretty happy about that. 2 and 3 of them were 5%ers. I'm 2-1 on those, and the one loss was the Texans on Monday Night Football, where they were a 4th and 10 away from basically winning that game. So pretty happy with the NFL. I have a 5% play up that goes tonight. We're going to continue on here, and I got one we should talk about. So I actually was very close to adding this to my client card. I ultimately talked myself off of it. I'm glad I did, because I thought you were right with your handicap of the Royals yesterday, and just didn't work out. They they didn't hit, and they lost a close game 3-2. I'm looking at this sort of game today again, and I'm inclined to go back with the Royals. I don't dislike this matchup for them. I like the matchup yesterday. I thought you did a great job pointing out the value on the Royals there. Again, It just didn't work out. You're still getting them. You're not getting the plus price, but you can still get them in that minus 105 range. Are you running it back with the Royals here?
Yeah, the Royals yesterday were one of my teams. I ended up going 2-3, but because we won the big 5% play, I ended up profiting for clients. And of course, a lot of people, that's all they care about is the 5% plays. But yeah, the Royals going with Michael Lorenzen here against Mitch Ferris. And Lorenzen's the righty, Ferris is the lefty. And we're looking at Kansas City about a 110 favorite, a slight favorite. Total of a 9 here, slightly to the over. When you take a look at the numbers from Michael Lorenzen, 4.70 ERA, 4.74 expected, 1.35 whip. Other than his walk rate, which is in the 71st percentile, basically everything else is either league average or worse. Extension 8th percentile, expected batting average 17th, expected ERA 18th. He's an innings eater, throws 7 different pitches from 8 to 22% of the time. I do like that, and that's basically the only reason at age 33 in his 11th season why he's still pitching in the major leagues. He's sort of like one of those veteran lefties you see that continue to rack up innings, but he's a right-hander. He's going up against Mitch Ferris, and he is not facing Buehler in this game, but he is facing Lorenzen, and he's got a 6.52 ERA, 5.33 expected, 1.45 whip. Obviously, he's only thrown 19 innings, so there's not a whole lot out there, but his fastball velocity is only in the 5th percentile, and he throws it half the time, and he only has 3 pitches. So he's not a guy I'm looking to back. It's not as though he's a guy that we've been waiting on to come up here and play for the Angels. Their pitching, starting pitching, as we know, is the weakness of the team, and it's been that way for a while. And he comes in. He was in a trade with Atlanta. He comes in. He's basically entering the season. He's the 23rd ranked player in their minor league system. So he's not a guy that I'm really going out there to love on. But you do take a look at the Royals. They're in really good shape in the bullpen. Nobody, because they didn't have the lead, they fell behind early. They never really used any of their best arms in the bullpen. Whereas the Angels had to use Jensen, Garcia, Fermin, and Silseth, who is Silseth was a guy that came out in 21, and we really thought good things about this guy, but he's never made it to the next level. But their bullpen right now, Jansen would have to pitch back to back. They're actually not in that bad of a situation. I think the Royals are a little bit better. And from a starting pitcher standpoint, as much as Lorenzen's a kind of guy, I would prefer that side. So we're getting at Kansas City. They now have I believe they're exactly at 500 on their record for the season. One of the things I like, as I talked yesterday about, is teams trying to finish the season with a winning record. I prefer them here. I don't know if I'll get here. If I can get them as an underdog, maybe plus 105, and there's some plus 101s out there right now. But if I got them at plus 105, I may have a small play on Kansas City. I think that's probably the right side in this game.
Someone in the chat says, wait, WTF, I paid for this pick. Why is it free, Adam? I haven't given out a pick on this show yet, so I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. I did say that I have a 5%er in the NFL game tonight. And if you know anything about the NFL, you know that it's going to be Seahawks Cardinals because it's the only game. That's all I said. I have a 5% play in the NFL game. Haven't given out anything for free. That being said, I will likely give my Major League Baseball play out for free today because if I've got a 5%er up, I really don't. I don't like to have like multiple packages. The 5%ers are expensive enough as it is. So I will probably give Major League Baseball out for free today, which I think I've got 3 in a row in MLB. So I think that's what I'll do. My 5%er in the NFL will be what's for sale. On my page, take a look at the free pick section because if I do play something in MLB, maybe it's the Dbacks, which is my parlay leg here. I will. I've decided I'm going to give that out for free. So just wanted to clear that up. Have not released any play that I have up for sale for clients on this show yet today. As far as this game is concerned, I suppose that this would get my. I don't know if it'll make my client card, but it's certainly one I'm looking at. Mitch Ferris called up directly from Double A. The Angel man. the Angels might need to go the Marlins route where they fire everyone associated with pitching in the organization, because this is not 2004. Like, no one calls dudes up directly from Double-A anymore. No one does it. It's just not even a thing anymore unless you're in the Angels organization. They're the only. I mean, it's maybe a thing that's very rare and would probably be done like out of complete necessity. Why the Angels are still doing this is I don't understand. They've done it with like 4 guys. Recently Aldehari, who pitched yesterday, he's at least been up and down a little bit, but he was at Double-A all year. Suddenly he's back in the big leagues. Kashanowitz debuted straight from Double-A. And it's like Triple-A is good enough now where, like, Bryan, help me out here. Back in the day, I don't think the quality of Triple-A was as good as it is now. I think you have guys that are hanging around much longer, extending their careers, willing to play Triple-A because the money is much better now. So you have far more MLB veterans that are willing to play until they're 35, 36, 37 years old at Triple-A because they're actually making a few dollars. It's not an insult like it was years ago with the money. So the quality of player at Triple-A is improved. And I think these guys are at a disadvantage, pitchers, when they don't get to go up to Triple-A for at least like a month and figure out how to face real MLB players, because you don't have those at Double-A. Would you weigh in on that? I'm curious to see your take.
Back when they had COVID, they really cut out most of minor league baseball. So anybody who is in Double-A or lower, that really pretty much set them back a whole year. And that's why since then you have seen more guys being called up from Triple-A. Because like you mentioned, a lot of the guys in Triple-A would be the guys that were the 26th, 27th, 28th guys that are veterans that didn't quite make it. You see it with the Red Sox all the time because they've been bringing it. They were trying to find a first baseman all season long. They'll bring somebody up, bring him back down, bring him back up. Hamilton second base, same kind of thing. And so those guys are the guys you usually keep in Triple-A. Double-A is more of your prospects, and as of now, people are really worried about burning out their prospects. So that's one of the reasons that it's not the same as it was in the past. But yeah, it's the Angels pitching staff is everything the Angels do. I feel terrible for the Angels players because I love the ballpark, I love the fans there, and they're an afterthought already. Being there with San Diego, San Francisco, and LA and California. So, yeah, they're not a team I'm looking to back on a regular basis.
So back to this, because I'm not done yet, because I just, my mind continues to be blown as I look at numbers here. Mitch Ferris at Double-A Rocket City, the Trash Pandas, a great mascot, by the way. The Rocket City Trash Pandas down in Alabama are the Double-A affiliate for the Los Angeles Angels. Mitch Ferris has spent almost his whole season there, 23 starts. He's got a 4.27 ERA and a 1.47 WHIP. Does that sound like something to you that should just be promoted straight to the big league level? Because it certainly doesn't to me. And so let's see what's happened since he's gotten called up to the bigs. Shocker. His ERA is over 6. He has a 6.52 ERA in 4 starts at the big league level. Like, I just don't. I know they don't have much, so that's the other thing. I know they don't have much down at Salt Lake. They had one of the worst pitching staffs of any team in the PCL this year. That's why they finished close to last. But there's still like at least a couple of veterans down there. I guess I just like on the one side, it's like whatever. They're meaningless games. Let's see what he can do against big league hitters. But this is just not a guy that, in my opinion, has shown enough to be like, yeah, let's trot him out there on the road. No, I'm sorry, they're home here, but like let's trot him out there against a big league lineup. So I would have to go to the Royals here. I think this is arguably a better bet than yesterday's with the Royals. I do like them here. If I hadn't already locked in my parlay leg, this would have probably been it.
keep,
But
keep
anyway,
in
so
mind, keep in
yeah,
mind, Ferris only throws 3 pitches. He throws his four-seamer 48% of the time. It's 3.1 miles an hour lower than the league average for a lefty. Throws his change 27% of the time. That's over 7 miles an hour less than what a normal lefty throws it. And his slider 25% of the time, which is 3.7 miles lower. So he's a 24-year-old junk pitcher that only has 3 pitches. Yeah, if Kansas City was throwing somebody other than Lorenzen, obviously we wouldn't be the only laying 110 in this game. But I agree. I think Kansas City is a good bet. We're getting late in the show. I'm gonna give my parlay leg out. I'm gonna go to the Houston and the Athletics game. Houston Astros, another team. I saw a meme somebody put out, and I don't remember who it was, but it had, like in the Army, when you crawl on your stomach, underneath those wires, they said that was the Houston Astros and the Detroit Tigers and the Cincinnati Reds this week. Just barely hanging on for dear life. And Houston just is not playing well. Houston comes in at about a 113, 114 favorite here, total of 9.5 to the under. And Houston is going with Framber Valdez. Houston was playing a lot better ball before Framber Valdez decided to screw up his catcher that game of a week or two ago. He's got a 3.75 ERA on the season, 3.81 expected, 1.24 whip. He has not pitched as well as he has in the past. Last year, at 2.91 ERA, won 15 games. His ground ball rate's 97th percentile, barrel rate 96, but average exit velocity 11th percentile, hard hit rate 8th, extension 8th. He's not a guy that I want right now. And in fact, that's a lot of pressure on him because he's already in the doghouse from Houston. He's going to be a free agent. And he's not a guy I would trust being on the mound here. Now, I got JT again, and I know you've been more of a fan than a lot of people have, but it's starting to show. A lot of his stats are starting to show that maybe he's got a future. He's got a 4.57 ERA, 3.70 expected, 1.32 whip, still a little bit high, but most of his StatCast page shows him in the red. He does struggle with the barrel rate, 17th percentile, hard hit rate, 16th, but he's a major ground ball pitcher, which really means a lot in this ballpark. 90th percentile there. His extension is 72nd. Whiff rate 74th, strikeout rate 74th. He's turning into a pretty decent pitcher for a team in Oakland or Sacramento this year or Vegas in 2028. That is showing that there's some advantages to him. And he may be a guy that ends up in this rotation for a while. The Athletics, you take a look at their hitters. They're hitting very well. Right now, Soderstrom's been great, 52 the last 2 weeks. Everybody on the team's decent. They haven't been like Houston. Houston, you take a look at their hitters. They've really struggled. Bullpen arms look pretty good for the A's here. If you take a look at the Houston offense, the only guy they have in the top 140 is Jeremy Pena, and he's been hurt the last 3 days. So the rest of the guys have really struggled. They've got Paredes has done nothing, 306, Walker 314, Sanchez 386. He struggled the entire time he's been with Houston. And we've got Jake Myers, who was really hot a while back, but now he's at 343. And Zach Cole, who they brought up, is at 307. So Houston is not hitting, and they're playing a guy who's pitching very well right now. And you're able to catch the Athletics as a slight underdog in this game. I'm going to play the Athletics. Let's just put them at plus 100. That'll be my parlay. We're going to go with the Athletics plus 100 here against Houston, and they could finally put the Astros out of their misery for a good point of this last few weeks where Houston has been terrible.
Rule of thumb: if the Mets trade away one of their high draft picks, they always end up being good. You can pretty much set your watch to it. That organization has a lot of bad luck, and they may be getting more in the coming days when they blow the wild card or miss the playoffs. But the list of top prospects that the Mets have traded away that ended up being awesome in their next stop is very, very long. JT Ginn, I have a feeling, as the years go on, is going to be on that list if he isn't already, because of course he was the second rounder for the Mets. I forget what trade maybe it was Blackburn or one of they've traded with the A's a couple of times, ship him over there. He's probably going to be in their rotation for a couple of years. And like you said, Brian, I've kind of been high on him through during his time in the minors. And he's someone, this is another guy that is on my list of guys, watch them in the offseason. I have a big big star next to JT Ginn, because he's someone that I'm going to be looking toward to next season as like maybe making the jump to be a guy that's, locking down a rotation spot. But 20, I mean, I have no problem with him here. I think pitching for this team can be tough sometimes. Pitching in this ballpark can be difficult, but so far 3 starts in the month of September, 1.76 ERA, 2.11 batting average against, 1.11 WHIP. I like him. So yeah, I've never been a big Framber Valdez guy. I still think that this point, I mean, if there was ever any animosity in that locker room for that, and now they're losing, like the Astros might be cooked here after those 2 days. I don't hate that angle at all. I know they have a lot to play for, but this team just hasn't gone in there. And I talked about this back in June. I back around the All-Star break, I said the odd team out, I think, in the AL West is probably going to be the Astros. Now, at the time, I thought the Rangers might actually still make the playoffs, but like I didn't know the Guardians were going to come from the clouds and win, every game they played. But it's kind of played out that way, and I think that's kind of how I look at it. Would you hear? So yeah, and Colin Gregory, I believe, is an Astros fan, and he says Astros are dead, capital dead. So yeah, I'm with you on the A's here. I think it's a good call.
I do want to point out we've on my trusty odds logic page, which is our line service at Wager Talk. Really good. There's a lot of guys in the industry that I follow that have nothing to do with Wager Talk. They all rave about this line service. So make sure you get it, either the free version or the paid version. It's getting better all the time. They're going to have props and a lot of things going on there in the back that really makes us proud. Troy Melton, they have, is listed as a starter for Detroit. That makes a lot of sense. I like him. He's their fifth ranked prospect in the minors. He's a righty. He threw 21 pitches on Saturday, so he's had plenty of time off. He is going to get the start here for Detroit. And now we're starting to see some line movements because of that. Money's coming in a little bit on Detroit here. You can get Cleveland now as low as a 157, just opened up a circa here in Vegas. So they're the latest to update it. So Melton being in for Detroit is better for Detroit in that game. And we talked about the value. If you got more cojones than I've got, then Detroit may not be a bad bet, but I'm not going to bet them.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit money had to come in at some point. That price was obnoxious. But again, even at a good price, I'll triple down on what I've said all week. I cannot bet the Tigers until something good happens for them. And Cody, don't worry about that. Cody says again, Adam, sorry, heard you wrong. Around some loud equipment at work. I just wanted to make sure that other people didn't think that I gave something out that I didn't, because one of my favorite. So Brian, and you can relate to this. When we lose a 5%er, there are people that people are not happy about it. They're big plays, and like you were saying, you went 2-3 yesterday. But if your 5%er wins, typically people are happy. That's the one they want. So my favorite thing. This was maybe 2 years ago. I had a 5%er in, like, it was like a standalone football game similar to tonight. I think it was like Monday Night Football or something. I won, and someone the next day was mad at me because they said, I can't believe you. I thought the way you bet, I never thought in the world thought you wouldn't have been on the other side. So I bet the other side. So I was like, wait a minute. You didn't buy the play. You guessed at what I was going to put out. You guessed wrong. My play won, and you're upset with me. I said, how is that? But that's kind of, Brian will concur. This is the type of stuff we deal with here. It is what it is. I wouldn't want it any other way. Let's put it that much. Put it that way. Go. Go ahead.
I just got a quick story. This is probably 15 years ago. I was on a different website, and we hadn't come around with this yet, but I was on a 10-game winning streak, and I had a guy call me in the office. This was back when I used to answer my own phone, and he says, "You must be pretty confident about today's play. You won 10 straight." And I said, "Well, yeah, I won 10 straight." I said, "But that's good. I'm happy. But that does not mean today's play is better than anything else." I says, "It's the same strength as the last 10 I gave out." And he goes, "Well, you gave out 10 in a row. How could you not be?" And he wouldn't buy my play because I wasn't overly excited. Now,
Yeah.
I've been in this for 45 years. I don't get excited about one play. If it's a 5%er, sure, I want to win it. Of course, it's important. That's 5% of your bankroll if you're betting that. I don't even bet that. I bet 1 and 2% of my bankroll on my games. So, yeah, we want to win all the big ones, but we're in this to grind. We're in this for people who. Our main focus is guys who buy our season. We want to have a winning record for them. Yes, the guys that buy individual, there's a whole lot more of them. We try to win for them too, but we're not going to win every game, which is it's just not possible. And we try to give you as many opinions as we can on every game we play. And a lot of times people say, "Oh, you were wrong on this game." I says, "Well, I didn't play that game." He says, "But you get elected on the show." I said, "Yeah, I got people complain if you don't give them an opinion, but then when you give them an opinion, it loses." So we're in a no-win situation. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, but here's how I mean, we're winning in the fact that we get to do this for a living, and
Yes.
I always say that it is. I would much rather someone tell me I suck after a 5% loss than like put a suit and tie on and go to work to go to a real job every day. I still say I've been doing this for like this is my only job for over a decade, and I still say real job because I just don't even feel like this is actual work. But even though if you ask Mallory, all I do is work because it's like I'm either looking at a screen, watching a game, but it's like it's not work. This is I'd probably be doing this if I was at it's the reason I don't have a real job anymore, Brian, because when I was at real jobs, I was doing this on the clock at work, and they're like, "You got to go. You can't just have the odd screen up on your your screen all day. You're supposed to be here doing real work." So it's anyway, don't worry about that. I just wanted to make sure someone didn't think I gave the play out because I didn't. And Irish John, yeah, I still lean Detroit over, even with money coming in. Still, I like my handicap there. So if you missed that, as always, we are up on demand on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Head on over there, watch the replay, drop us a comment. If you missed something, you can always go back. But we did talk about Guardians, Tigers in depth. And I'll wrap it up with the parlay. Two-teamer today, just two of us. Tokyo Brandon will be back tomorrow. So we'll have the whole crew back for the final show of the regular season. But the two-teamer today, Diamondbacks plus 1.5, A's money line plus 281. Hopefully we haven't hit one yet this week. So hopefully this is it. And either way, we'll see you guys at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone, or have a good day, everyone. Cash all your tickets, and we'll see you in the morning.